Welcome to the inaugural Celebrating Catholic Education Breakfast. I'm Tim Scully, a Holy Cross priest from the University of Notre Dame, and I'm delighted to share this marvelous celebration of Catholic Schools Week together in my own hometown of Chicago. Let us pray. Loving God, inspire us in our service to children, to families, in our schools and in all schools, to provide a place where all can become what you created each one of us to become and flourish as your children. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. Well, what a perfect morning to celebrate the gift of Catholic schools together on this feast of St. Angela Merici. You know, Angela was one of the great ecclesial entrepreneurs of her day. She literally invented, in 1535, the first community of religious women in service to Catholic education. Talk about a woman who was unafraid to break the mold. Angela insisted that the most urgent need of the day was to provide a rich, faith-based education to women at a time when women weren't supposed to be in school as students, let alone founding and leading schools as professional educators. And today, nearly 500 years later, we celebrate the legacy of literally hundreds of thousands of religious women and men who followed in her footsteps and who built the largest private school system in the world. I see a couple of religious women in this room. Would you stand and just be recognized? That's the Catholic school system in America, and in Chicago this morning we celebrate the largest Catholic school system in our country. And that's what we're called to do today in the spirit of Angela, foundress of the Ursulines. We're called to think out of the box and reinvent the gift of Catholic schools in a way that's appropriate for our contemporary, deeply secularizing American context. For never before in the history of elementary and secondary education in this country has there been a more opportune time for innovation and bold rethinking than in the public squares of America today. This is true of state-run schools, it's true of charter schools, and it's certainly true of our own Catholic schools. Let's talk for a moment about Catholic schools. Why are they important? Why do we believe that any and every sacrifice to strengthen and sustain this legacy of faith is worth the effort? Sometimes when thinking about the value of something, I find it useful to imagine what our life would be like without that something. What would our communities, our country, and our church in America be like without Catholic schools? What if they never existed? We know from our research that our communities would have been deprived of a rich social asset that has generated decade after decade invaluable social capital, weaving together a kind of social fabric, knitting our neighborhoods and inner cities together as communities. In fact, we know from our research at Notre Dame that when Catholic schools close, the people in our neighborhood suffer an increase in crime, delinquency, violence, and ultimately urban decay. And note well, Catholic school closures are not just a symptom of urban decay, they cause it. And not just for our Catholic community, for the whole community. An American Catholic church without the legacy of its Catholic schools would be deprived of a rich source of vocations in service to the gospel, vocations of every sort, from priests and religious to lay ministers. But not just vocations in service to the gospel. Generations of immigrant families like our own would not have experienced the kind of educational opportunities that resulted in the Catholic immigrant community's catapult into leadership in sector after sector in the American society. Catholic schools supply the very torque that is the flywheel of evangelization and generous citizenship. Will our generation be the first to deprive immigrant communities in our great country the gift of a Catholic education? Did you know that Latino children who attend Catholic schools, for example, are 42% more likely to graduate from high school and 2.5 times more likely to graduate from college. And the very same can be said of our African American brothers and sisters. Researchers call that effect the Catholic school advantage. In simple terms, the greater the disadvantage or the achievement gap, the greater the boost a student will receive by attending a Catholic school. And a United States without Catholic schools would be less tolerant and a less rich civil society. Did you know that, contrary to popular opinion, Catholic schools are more racially diverse, are more socioeconomically diverse than their state-sponsored counterparts? In fact, we know that public schools tend to be the most racially and socioeconomically segregated institutions in our country. That Catholic school graduates are more likely to volunteer, more likely to vote, less likely to experience jail, and far more likely to worship their God. Let me just say that on a personal note, I'm deeply indebted to this local church. I owe my own vocation and the amazing opportunities I've experienced over the years to the wonderful Franciscan sisters who educated me at Sacred Heart Parish on the north side. The same can be said about the amazing education I received at the hands of the Jesuits at Loyola Academy, and I cannot begin to imagine my life without Catholic schools. I'll bet that's true of a lot of you here. So that's why, at the University of Notre Dame's Alliance for Catholic Education, or ACE, we're bound and determined to make sure that this gift is available to generations that follow us. We're engaged in forming educators, school leaders, an array of services to strengthen and sustain this life-giving apostolate to families and children. In Chicago, the cornerstone of our work over the past 22 years has been our work in forming talented leaders. So we're grateful to be able to share in the mission of Catholic schools in Chicago with 73 ACE teachers and leaders serving in archdiocesan schools. For us, that's more than any archdiocese in the country. We'll be leading 24 schools in the archdiocese and serving in 37 Catholic schools. Through our experience of placing teachers in Catholic schools, we came to the unsurprising conclusion that the most important factor that empowered our teachers to experience success in the classroom is the quality of their principal. Truly transformative leaders are the holy grail of school success and will be our foremost strategic priority in partnership with the Archdiocese in the coming years. Would the principals of our schools who are here today just stand and be recognized? I referred to the Catholic School Advantage earlier, and in an effort to help increase the number of children who benefit this advantage, we're grateful to have been able to share in this mission in the Archdiocese. Latino enrollment in our targeted schools has grown by 17%, an increase of over 500 Latino students. Almost in conclusion, let me just say that today in Chicago and Illinois, we are particularly excited that there is strong potential for school choice legislation to be passed to help thousands of children and families gain access to the quality education they deserve. This is a time across our great country and here in the Archdiocese of unprecedented reinvention, energy, and innovation. Signs of the Spirit, if you will, alive in our Catholic schools. Catholic schools are not on hospice. I want to thank each of you, nearly 500 people this morning, crazy enough to get out of bed at this hour, for recognizing the promise of our Catholic schools. Through your presence today, every penny raised at this morning's breakfast will go to support the Caritas Scholarship Program, which awards need-based scholarships throughout the Archdiocese. These funds will help ensure children in Chicago gain access to a quality education. As you know, we're in the midst of a bold and visionary capital campaign to teach who Christ is, a campaign being conducted in all 370 parishes of the Archdiocese with the goal of helping build stronger parishes and stronger schools. How about this? To date, more than $140 million has been raised in the campaign, much of it set aside for Catholic schools. Congratulations, Archdiocese of Chicago. We want to thank those who've been generous to the campaign. We want to thank those generous sponsors of this breakfast. Our sponsors include the Sage Foundation, Melissa Sage Fathom, ComEd, and CEO Ann Pramaggiore. I hope I got that right, Ann. Ed and Dorothy Weimer, my classmate from Loyola Academy, Jim and Molly Perry, Jerome and Judith Castellini. After breakfast, our wonderful and visionary new Archbishop, Blaise Cupich, there, I blew that whole deal. Better find another diocese to. Blaise Cupich will talk about his vision for the future of Catholic education. But before that, we've asked Katie Olson, principal of Our Lady of Charity School in Cicero, to say a few words about her work and the role of Caritas scholarship programs in her school. I should just add that she's been a teacher at St. Sabina Academy on the South Side. She's a Notre Dame ACE graduate, and she's now in her 5th year. So welcome, Katie. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Katie Olson, as Father Tim said, and I'm the principal of Our Lady of Charity School. I'm so honored this morning to have the chance to speak on behalf of my community and to express our gratitude for the generous support our families have received from the Caritas Scholarship Program. Before I speak about Our Lady of Charity, I would like to first express my thanks to Father Tim Scully. Father Scully's support of Catholic education and his leadership of the ACE program is remarkable. On a personal level, ACE's REMIC leadership program has been crucial to my formation as a school leader. Through the program, I became more deeply aware of my call to serve not only in school leadership, but most especially to serve in Catholic school leadership. As Catholic school leaders, our work not only prepares students academically, but it also shapes their character, develops the morality, and deepens their faith. What a privilege it is to be able to speak to children about God's love for them and to help students grow in using their God-given gifts and talents in service of others. All of us can truly learn the meaning of a Christ-centered community by experiencing it in a Catholic school. It has been an honor to serve as the principal of Our Lady of Charity for the past 5 years. When I first came to Our Lady of Charity, we were confronting many challenges at the school. Both enrollment and morale were low, and we faced financial difficulties. As a community, we worked together to strengthen our loving faith-based culture, to offer academically excellent programs, and to oversee the growth of the school. At Our Lady of Charity, we are especially proud of our increasing enrollment. Since 2009, we have exactly doubled in size, growing from 168 to 336 students. We now have 3 preschool classrooms and 2 kindergarten classrooms, each in kindergarten through 2nd grade. For the first time in decades, we face the prospect of having more students than space to put them in. The Caritas program has had a significantly positive impact on allowing us to draw these new families into our school. With a school community where 88% of families qualify for free and reduced price lunch, scholarship assistance is crucial to give families the ability to afford an outstanding Catholic education. This allows us to more fully realize our mission of developing children into disciples of Christ and leaders in the community. Truly, every child deserves an excellent faith-based education, regardless of the socioeconomic level of his or her family. Currently, 43 students at Our Lady of Charity receive a Caritas scholarship. As our school grows in size, we have also grown in spirit. The addition of new teachers, families, and students brings increased energy, excitement, and creativity into our building. Since joining the Caritas community, our overall test scores have increased by 13%, and our increasing enrollment has allowed us to strengthen the school's financial stability. Most importantly, our Caritas families bring a beautiful spirit of gratitude into our community. What they are unable to give monetarily, they more than make up for in their faithful commitment to our school. The Caritas families are the first ones to volunteer at school events and in the parish. They make food for our teachers, paint our classrooms, and chaperone field trips. Recognizing that they are the recipient of others' generosity, they in turn freely give of their own gifts. It is this mutual exchange of individual gifts that strengthen our Catholic community. When I think about the impact of the Caritas program, I think especially of the Morales family. Faithful parishioners who dreamed of being able to send their 2 children to a Catholic school, but who, without the support of scholarships, were previously financially unable to do so. I see how the mother expresses her gratitude each day. I see her daughter Maribel's growing confidence in her own academic abilities and in her faith. And I see her son Yandel's pride in having reached his goal for kindergarten, to learn how to read. Our Lady of Charity, like all Catholic schools, prepares children to become saints, scholars, and leaders. The importance of our faith, the dedication of our teachers, the love our school parents have for their children, and the strength of our community are strong and vibrant. With continued support from the Caritas program, we are confident that we will be able to continue to welcome families into our community far into the future. Thank you, and God bless you.
It's no question why your school is thriving, Katie. Thanks so much for the gifts. Please enjoy your breakfast, and Archbishop Supich will address us in a bit. Thanks all of you so much for your lively engagement this morning, and what a wonderful breakfast. You know, as I said, introducing Katie, there's a wonderful reflection that the absolutely essential precondition for a successful school, and Catholic schools are no different, is effective and transformative leadership, and Katie certainly embodies that. We have another great leader in the room. Although he's only been in Chicago a very short time, Archbishop Supich has already shown his visionary leadership and unsurpassed commitment to Chicago's Catholic schools. When his move to Chicago was announced, you may have seen an article that ran praising him for being a decisive and very fair leader. One of the great achievements of his time leading the Diocese of Spokane was the creation of the Nazareth Guild, a foundation that Archbishop Supich launched that has raised significant resources for direct support of that diocese's schools. It's no surprise that he's totally committed and focused for doing the same and even more for Chicago's Catholic schools. So what an honor and a privilege it is for me this morning to introduce our new Archbishop Supich, who will set forth his vision for our schools this morning.
Thank you, Father Scully, and don't worry about the mispronunciation of my name. I can guarantee you I have been called worse in life. And my only question to you, Father Scully, is how did we miss in the Archdiocese of Chicago getting you to be a priest of this Archdiocese? We lost out on that one. It's Notre Dame's and the Holy Cross Father's gain. I'm delighted to see so many people here, and I had a chance to greet a number of you when you were entering the room. I want to acknowledge in a special way all of our sponsors, those who helped underwrite this breakfast so that everything that is realized will go to the scholarship fund on behalf of students in need. It's a great tribute to all of you who are sponsors about your commitment, not just to Catholic education, but to the families and young people who benefit from those scholarship dollars. Thank you so very much. I also want to acknowledge a number of elected officials who are here with us today. Thank you for taking time. I know you're very busy with the agenda that you have to attend to in the legislature, and also those who serve in other capacities. Thank you all for being here. Mayor Rahm Emanuel called me and wanted to be here, but his schedule wouldn't permit it. But in many ways he is here because he sent Amy Rule, who's ever at his side. So thank you, Amy, for being here today. It is very energizing for me to look around this room this morning and see so many willing partners already invested in our Catholic schools. All of you have my deep admiration and gratitude, not only for attending this breakfast, but also for the obvious commitment you have to our families, students, faculty, staff, administration, and parishes, which make up the communities within our school system. These first few weeks of my service as the Archbishop of Chicago have convinced me that there is no challenge or issue facing us for which we do not have the needed human and other resources. And your being here today steels me in that conviction. The organizers of this event have asked me to address the topic, the future of Catholic education in the Archdiocese of Chicago. But before I get into the future, I think it's good to say a few words about the past. My aim in doing so is simply to highlight how far we have come, but also to draw attention to the need to redouble our efforts if we're going to be true to our proud heritage. I will end my remarks by speaking about the opportunities, but also the urgency of this moment for all adults to partner together for our children, and for us as Catholics to adapt to new developments and challenges with a humility that is equal to our pride in order for our Catholic schools to build on the legacy handed on to us, a legacy that has benefited our faith and our civic communities. We have a proud past. We're here today because of what happened 130 years ago this past fall. The bishops of the United States, 75 in all, met for the Third Council of Baltimore from November 9th to December the 7th, 1884. And among other things, decreed the following with regard to Catholic schools. Parochial schools are an absolute necessity, and every parish is obliged to have a school. Pastors are obligated to establish a Catholic school in their parishes. Parents are required to send their children to a Catholic school unless they get the permission from the bishop. Schools should be free if needed. The decrees about schools from the Council of Baltimore were fairly well followed as a rule, not just as a norm, until the early 1970s. At least that was my experience growing up in Omaha, Nebraska. When parishes were established, no permission was given to build a church by the Archbishop until the school was up and running. And I'm sure that many of you had the experience of Mass celebrated in school halls or gymnasiums in newly established parishes until the church could be built. Of course, much has changed over these 130 years. Just consider these comparisons. In 1884, the Catholic population numbered about 300,000. Today, it's almost 70 million. There were 127 parishes in 1884. Today, 17,000. 130 years ago, there were 59 schools with 22,000 students. Today, 1,300 high schools with 612 students and 55 elementary schools with 1.4 million students. Yes, we are here because of that legacy of commitment made 130 years ago and renewed in every generation since then. But we're also here today because we, our church and society, have benefited from that legacy, and we want to see it continue and prosper. Undoubtedly, the world and the church are much different than the days of the Third Baltimore Council. And some of these decrees seem to be out of touch with reality. Let's start with the most obvious one. Parents are required to send their children to Catholic schools unless they get my permission. I don't seem to be getting a lot of traction on that one. I guess not everybody got the memo. But while some aspects of these decisions by the bishops 130 years ago seem outdated, what we should focus on is what is at the heart of their commitment to Catholic schools. It was a threefold conviction. First, that education is mediated by communities in which the adults sacrifice and make demands of each other for the benefit of their children. Second, that they, as adults, are linked to a tradition of passing on faith and knowledge that works. 3, that there must be an intentional aim of giving youth the tools to be the next generation of adults who will continue that legacy for the good of the church and society. We, in short, have an educational system not only that works, but is designed to perpetuate itself to the benefit of our faith communities and to the civic order. Just one set of figures bring home our claim that our system works and contributes to the greater good. 95% of the children who attend our schools graduate from high school. And these graduates, statistically, are 4 times more likely to vote in elections. That might be a wake-up call for some here today. My point is simple. Our system of education works. It benefits society and deserves support so that it can continue. We are proud that the Archdiocese of Chicago school system has the largest number of national blue ribbon schools of any system of schools, public or private, in this country. We are equally proud that each year the Archdiocesan family, through the annual Catholic Appeal and our parish contributions, provide over $30 million of financial support to our schools. And that is beyond the good work that other organizations like the Big Shoulders Foundations, religious communities, foundations, and other partners are providing. Financial aid is needed because of the large number of minority students that we educate. And we value that diversity. It makes us better. Tuition assistance has allowed young people in need to attend our schools. It has given them a chance to achieve so much in the world, such as 6 of the 9 justices of the United States Supreme Court who attended Catholic schools, all of whom received tuition assistance. We are to be proud, but humble. While there is justifiable pride in how far we have come, there must be an equal humility as we move into the future. We are humble that we have come so far because of the great sacrifice that religious women have made since the early days of the church in this country. They built our school systems. They built our school system, and we should never forget it. We are humbled that this legacy of sacrifice continues today in people like Katie Olson and her colleagues. Presently, we are able to operate at lower cost, sometimes at half the rate of other school systems. Why? Because, to some degree, our teachers and staff take a fraction of the salary allotted in other school systems. We are able to run our schools the way we do because of their sacrifice, and that too should not be forgotten. We are also humbled by the increasing attraction our school system has for minorities and low-income families who have the aspirations of all parents to better the lives of their children. We are humbled by the challenges of shifting demographics that place pressures on our parishes and our schools, all of which calls for creative and imaginative solutions that go beyond past parish boundaries. We are humbled that much of our infrastructure built decades ago has to be a factor in making decisions about the future. And we are humbled that today people relate to their parishes differently than in the past, due in part to greater mobility in the workforce and the loss of ethnic loyalties that once bound communities together. This new kind of relationship can cause tensions as pastoral leaders try to understand how their schools fit into the mission of the parish. Yes, we have our challenges, and these challenges humble us. But they are nowhere near the ones that faced the church 130 years ago. We have the human and other resources to address them, but we need to do this together and invite, in all humility, new partners. Making our system of education stronger and particularly more available to families in need of financial aid are at the heart of the To Teach Who Christ Is campaign. Its aim is to bolster and sustain the tuition assistance we provide the tens of thousands of children who attend our 240 schools, served by over 7,000 tax-paying teachers. But with all these private efforts, we still stand in need of other partners, simply because our school system each year attracts more and more families who are in need. Many minority families, many of whom are not Catholic. And we educate them not because they're Catholic or we think they're going to become Catholic, but we do it because we are Catholic and we have a proven product and we're good at it and we know how to do it. Yet, there is a limit to how much we can do. While it is true that nationwide Catholic schools save the taxpayer over $20 billion each year, it is also true that the likelihood of continuing this legacy is in doubt without some adjustments that will give families a choice through government cooperation. There are promising signs that many citizens in this country and in our state recognize in greater numbers the benefit of giving school choice to families. They see that we can educate children to quality programs for less, that we have a good product, that our students grow up to be good citizens. But the contrary is also true. If the state were to lose more Catholic schools, it will increase the burden on the taxpayers. I'm aware that many good people associated with EdChoice, which I fully support, are working with many of our elected officials on legislation that will not only provide tax incentives for individuals and corporations to increase donations to scholarship providers for parochial schools, but also add significant dollars to public and charter schools. I want to be clear. This is not about pitting private schools versus public and charter schools. The effort aims to team all three sectors up together so that all families have access to a high-quality school, no matter what sector they're in. Recently, a reporter asked me if I felt as though the Catholic schools were not getting credit for the way that they help public school budgets, taking the cost of so many students off the tax rolls. My answer was simply, I don't think in those terms. As far as I'm concerned, no matter what school these children are in, they're all our children. That is my invitation to all the citizens of this state, and especially our elected officials, and all of you here today. Let's remember that they're all our children. We bring to the table our tradition of challenging each other as adults to sacrifice and to make demands of each other for the benefit of our children, in which we as adults recognize that we are linked to a tradition of passing on faith and knowledge that works, and in which there is an intentional aim of giving you the tools to be the next generation of adults who will continue that legacy for the good of the church and the good of society. We ask others to join us in that vision by supporting the To Teach Who Christ Is campaign and by partnering in the efforts to give all parents and families a choice when it comes to the education of their children. We have a proud past, but we are equally humble about the future, for it is a humility that recognizes we have so many reasons to be thankful for the sacrifices of so many in the past, but we also understand that new partnerships are needed for us to continue the legacy handed on to us. I welcome the challenge of making the case for that partnership and the opportunity to invite you to join me in building on all that we have received. Your presence today makes me proud, but keeps me humble, in knowing that none of us can do this alone. Thank you for your support.